Well, ladies, gentlemen, NBs, boys, girls, tomatoes, potatoes, all things, living and not. He did it. He officially did it. Elon Musk is the first world's trillionaire, and nobody has Luigi'd his ass yet. Nobody. This dude actually, this guy is so wealthy, he had a wealth victory in the civilization match. He won via wealth. That's how much money he has. So we're going to talk about how that happened and why he doesn't deserve any of it, and how this type of stuff works and why, and all of these things, associated topics, blah, blah, blah. And I would also like to talk about people who use this talking point against, like, actual socialist reform. Sorry, just trying to make sure there's no, like, deer that are going to run across the road at any moment, because that's how driving works. Nonetheless, so how did this asshole do it, right? And so, there's just a rabbit and another deer, so I'm just gonna throw those out so that the animals stop. I don't kill any of them, Jesus. Man, we really, just do not America's a crap society. It's terrible, it's awful, and anybody who disagrees is either ignorant or, evil. And that's it, dude. That's it. If you see all of this and you're like, this is fine, you're an idiot. It's that simple. The guy who is the son of South African emerald mine slaving people who benefited from apartheid, took a bunch of money, got his hair plugs, took credit for starting PayPal, became this marketed, tech bro giant. Jesus, he's Tony Stark, but without the suit. He is a neurodivergent genius. And all of this was hogwash, was bullshit. It's all bullshit, man. None of it was true. It's never been true. And there's so many reasons for that. One of those is that American culture, not just since the beginning of capitalism in this country, but also more broadly, the frontierism philosophy of America can be easily co-opted and kind of assimilated into this new capitalist narrative. What was once originally this white landed aristocratic settler colonial ethno-nationalist state of America that had manifest destiny and wanted to kill all the Native Americans, and we had slavery, and that was the pretext for it, right? And there's a frontierism to the settler colonial imperialist capitalist policies of the United States, white supremacist and patriarchal as well, and queerphobic and ableist, and all of the things, all of the words, all of the liberal social arts, social science arts, blah, blah, blah words, degrees. Okay? All of the things. We have a culture that naturally kind of, I wish proclivicate was a word, but it's not. It proclines, it pushes people towards the proclivity of worshiping the ruling class in this country. John Steinbeck, I think, once said that the reason that socialism never took kind of popularity or achieved popularity in the South, in the United States, is because every American, not just Southerners, but every American considers themselves a temporarily embarrassed millionaire, right? And there's this kind of deranged, nonetheless psychotic, basically a kind of wealth cult in this country, that if you just sell your soul as much as possible, you'll ascend to the wealth heavens and you'll get as much riches as you want. Christians and Westerners love to make fun of Muslims because of the 13 virgins in heaven or whatever, but it's dude, you've got 3 SUVs, an above ground pool, 3 HD TVs, and you're still not happy. That's, I think we got to figure out our own shit first. And so American culture just kind of naturally supports the billionaire class. I mean, it just does. we've had this kind of attitude that like these people are the job providers, right? That if they leave, we're screwed. Oh my God, what are we gonna do? They left. Oh, jeebus, right? What do we? Oh my God, it's the horror, the bullshit. It's horrific. Who did it? Who is this guy? Who set him up? Who set the system up in here? Huh? And now he's a trillionaire. Now this guy owns more wealth than like the net worth and GDP of several countries combined. He owns a significant portion of the world's wealth. There is now a larger distance between the wealth of Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk than there is between Jeff Bezos and the rest of the working class. As in, Elon Musk is like next level wealthy. Obviously he's a trillionaire. One of the things that people never talk about is like we all use the same money. So like when they get money, like way more, man, they just collect literal trillions of dollars, billions and billions of dollars. Our wealth value goes down because money needs to keep getting printed. They keep they're taking money, which means more money needs to be printed, and since they're making more and more money will have to be printed for that, right? And so inflation is inextricably tied, no matter how much like the Federal Reserve tries to get involved, with the wealth accumulation of the rich, right? But then we act like minimum wage increases are the real issue when that almost always, if not always, statistically proves that an economic kind of stimulus package that is increasing the minimum wage for countless people across the country naturally stimulates not just the local economy, not just the state economy of that region, but also the greater kind of, federal commerce that the country is trying to, that the country originally, in theory, hypothetically, was trying to operate off of. But as we can all now see very clearly, capitalism is cucked. It's got us all cucked. We're all leashed. It's going to destroy the world. It's going to kill all the Palestinians. It's going to kill all of us next. And until we deal with this, it's just going to keep getting worse. So, how do these assholes get billions of dollars anyways, right? Like, what kind of dumb mother effer was like, yeah, dude, let's let these, descendants of slaves and descendants of slave owners and slave plantation owners rule the world, let them keep their wealth. That totally makes sense, right? Friendly reminder that after the Civil War ended in the United States that we had a reparations program, but of course it was not for Black Americans, who overwhelmingly just became sharecroppers, which was just a marginal upgrade from the previous status of slavery. But we gave those reparations to the white slave-owning families in the South because they bitched and they whined and they moaned and complained when every single one of them should have been shot on sight. And instead, we gave them money. If you enslave human beings, the only response to you is to put a bullet through your brain. There's no other, there's no other, and I'm not talking about kink stuff. I'm talking about real life, I'm talking about slavery, okay? Get your head out of the gutter. I'm talking about slavery, right? If you enslave people, bullet to the brain every time, dude. In Minecraft, because I would never advocate for violence. In Minecraft. Not in real life, because I would never, ever advocate for violence. That's crazy. That all right. Yeah, man, people are just weird. This is what I'm talking about. It's just weird. Just weird behavior from people. I was driving behind this guy. He randomly stops, doesn't use his turn signal, pulls over to the shoulder of the road. I'm not riding him at all, not even remotely. I was just driving behind him. Then he pulls over and lets me get in ahead of him, but it's I'm not, whatever. Maybe he's just trying to let me pass, whatever. It's weird. I don't know, man. Americans are weird. I'll never get over it. Their driving habits are weird. Their intentionality is weird. Their ability to chill the fuck out and just, to chill the fuck out, man, is very hindered. They're not. Yeah, it's pretty bad here, guys. If you're not an American, it's really bad. It's getting real bad these days. But I digress. I apologize. It's just this is how I can get these recorded well. I'm being safe. I'm not, looking at my phone or anything while I do this. I'm doing the best with what I can. So that's why we're doing it like this. So I apologize for the digression. So, right? Like, how do these billionaires and trillionaires accumulate this wealth, right? And that's from the economic structure of our society, and the relationship between workers creating surplus value and the profit motive and wealth accumulation. And I will explain how all of that works. I'll try to go my best not to go too in depth here. We all can obviously see I'm not the best at being as organized as I could possibly be with my explanations, but we're doing our best here. I'll do my best to explain these concepts and try to walk you through, especially through the Marxist understanding of how this works, and I'll do it in a layman's type of terms, layperson's type of terms to make it easier. And then, we'll try to just be like, I'll try to explain why it's bad and how it's unfair, and to simply put it, right? Like, you cannot accumulate $1 billion, let alone $1 trillion amount of fucking dollars without ripping off other people, man. That's just the simple truth. And it always will be. So yeah, right? Let's deal with this whole, how do the billionaires work thing. Sorry about that. All right, let's try that again. Yeah, so how does this work, right? It's so let's just start with the basics, right? Like, if you're either a bourgeois person or you're a proletariat person. Bourgeois basically just means you don't work. So if you've got like $2 billion and you don't need to work at all or do anything, this applies to you. You're bourgeois. And then the proletariat is just basically anybody who has to work, right? And now, granted, like, I'm sure billionaires, like, answer emails or something. I don't even know if they do that, man. Maybe they just pay someone else to do it. Right? Like, everybody might be doing work, but the idea is that the proletariat is getting paid a certain amount for the work that they do, and that they're producing what's called surplus value from people selling their labor. So what happens is that, like, you go to a McDonald's or something, you get a part-time job there. Let's say it's like $15 an hour, right? Like, you get paid $15 for the hour, but you make that McDonald's restaurant like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars in that 1 hour, right? And so, like, the difference between what you're getting paid, the minimum amount, the absolute bare minimum amount, some of the lowest people have been paid in American history, right? The difference between that and the actual profits that are being made in that hour is surplus value, right? Now, it's important to remember, like, the worker is the person who produced the profit. I mean, the bootlickers love to say things like, well, Jake, the rich are the ones who provide the jobs, right? The rich are the ones who provide the means of production, right? They have the land and the machine and all of the things. But they own it, right? They already owned it. These are assets. These are pre-owned. This is pre-owned capital. This is capital that they did not work for, or at least if they did work for, they've accumulated so much that they have an amount of it, right? That they have a surplus value, a surplus amount of wealth to make these decisions, right? The vast majority of people, especially in America, are proletariat. They whether it's, lumpen proletariat, which is basically just kind of like homeless people and prostitutes, right? Like the untouchables, quote unquote, of society. This incredibly toxic label. And there's just a lot of like kind of class elements that go on for the lumpen proletariat. Then there's the proletariat. Sometimes people call it the lower class, right? Then there's the professional managerial class, also known as like a lot of middle class people are in this class. God, where do I even, there's so much to explain. Like, there's this idea, listen, okay, like, the entire idea of a middle class is rigged because, like, if you want to be middle class, you admit, like, within the statement that you're okay with, like, a bunch of people being more poor than you are, right? Like, this idea that the middle class is a goal to be had is a trap, because there is always a lower and an upper to a middle, right? It is a false conclusion to the bisection between the ruling class and the lower class. Nonetheless, there's still plenty of, like, compradors and capos and house slaves and Uncle Toms, and it's basically the house slave class in many ways. These are the dentists and doctors and high-paying engineers and astronauts and, chain restaurants, small business owners, and all of these things, right? But the problem is that, like, these days in America, people didn't really evaluate this concept of the middle class. The middle class was supposed to be this kind of, like, extrapolated idea about what's possible within American, up-class mobility, and that there's this idea that we can all find a happy middle ground where everybody can work things out. No, it doesn't work. It's admitted in the frickin' word, man. It's in the word middle class. It's in it. It's because you call it middle. You call it the middle class. So when you want it, so when you pursue it, you're saying to yourself, I'm okay with other people having it worse off than me as long as I get better. And I am telling you, there's cocked attitude within that. Irrefutably. Okay? It's house slave shit to do that stuff. Objectively. And effectively speaking, like, the vast majority of the American working class is the middle class of the world. They are the imperial core. They're the labor aristocrats. They're the petty bourgeois, the petit bourgeois of the world, man. Especially white people, especially middle class people, especially, like, a lot. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, these things about, like, the vast majority of Americans, with the exception of, like, homeless people, Native Americans, and, like, a lot of Black Americans, benefit from our class position in the world. And even, like, Latin Americans and a lot of Black Americans, Asian Americans, like, are starting to, like, kind of become assimilated into American labor aristocratic culture because of neoliberalism. And so this basically just creates a more diverse, more diverse, like, comprador class, basically. It's just bringing more voices to the table to be compromised, and to kind of wield these people's voices as instruments of imperialism in the name of perpetuating capitalism and making sure communism doesn't make any progress around any parts of the world, because America is a very anti-communist country. This idea that, like, you can just pursue there are consequences to this whole, like, go after the middle class thing or become the middle class thing. Like, there are consequences to it. And as if, like, the very kind of ideological construction of its very nature already not being problematic enough, we can kind of now see in full time that the middle class is, in effect, fully dissolved within America. I mean, it is effectively a lost dream, and the vast majority of people know that. There might be class distinctions between people's backgrounds, and of course there's different class positions within our society. Of course that's true. Of course. However, the economic status of what is effectively late-stage capitalism in our empire produces a situation and circumstances where the vast majority of people are, for better or for worse, things are pretty bad right now, but for better or for worse, people have never been kind of more in solidarity or more united, somewhat speaking, not entirely. There's a lot of divisive stuff going on, but nonetheless, I think, I would put forth for Christ's sakes, like a month ago, was it? A poll came out that 50% of Democratic Party voters support socialism. That's crazy. That's like half of the Democratic liberals Half the Democratic Party is like, yeah, dude, let's do some of that socialism. The voters anyways. That's just crazy to me. That's insane. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that things are getting worse. People are looking for answers to what's going on. We've been relying on this high. We've been relying on going off fumes of our empire with neoliberalism to the point that it's undeniable now. And so as economic conditions get worse and material conditions get worse, the two extremes of explanation, socialism versus fascism, will continue to increase in interest because the situation is becoming so bad. And people are looking for correct answers, so they're either going to realize correctly that it's about capitalism and the class distinction between the rich and the poor, or they'll go like full racist or something and be like, let's kill all the brown people on the good old fascist side. Those totally normal and healthy individuals, right? So you have these two things with like the middle class and lower class, right? But at the end of the day, like wage laborers and salary laborers both are still enslaved. They're both getting paid a certain amount, while more often than not, the vast majority of the time, like really making a lot of more money for this company than they normally would. And they're making a lot of like money for the company, more. Like, they're not making as much as they should if they just owned the means of production, right? Because we'll get to that in a second. But had these people, right, kind of just like, I don't know, like, I mean, like there's, how do you put this, man? There's like, it's circumstantial, right? Like, like you might, like, if you're, I don't know, a school administrator or something like that, like, obviously, like, I don't know how that like translates and stuff, but let me put it this way: the higher and closer up you get towards the ruling class, the more and more properly compensated for your labor that you get, to the point where it eventually becomes too much. Once people start entering like that kind of millionaire category, it's like, did you really earn all of this money, or did you just like benefit from a bunch of people along the line not getting paid enough, right? The classic phrase, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, right? And I mean, this is kind of how, this is just the beginning, really. So like, so you have like people at varying levels, right? Like even like celebrities and actors, there's nuance there. Like a lot of times actors might get like paid significantly less than what they should. Sometimes other actors get paid a lot more for their value because of like the name recognition and stuff, and then it's just a question of like how much that actually translates, right? Like Jerry Seinfeld is an insufferable, obnoxious pedo Israel lover who's not funny whatsoever and yet has all this wealth, right? But like, I mean, how many like black comedians, disabled comedians, queer comedians who are actually funny, like significantly more, are never gonna come even close to that? It's because of capitalism, man. It's because it's it's not this boogeyman, this invisible man in the sky to point to and blame for everything. No, that's what Christians do. You're mistaking us for Christians. You're mistaking us for like all the other bullshit people that you don't criticize at all. No, like, it's dude, it's like, it's so bad here, man. Like, people, like, we really do have a cult of capitalism here, man. You can't criticize it or talk about it at all without some fucking uppity, McDonald's loving, out of shape, barely literate, yet somehow business owning conservative named Tom or Jerry or something, or fucking Thomas, or Kevin, or Braden or some shit, Jaden, right? I don't know, some fucking asshole's name, right? Eric, Eddie, I don't know. Stuff like that. I mean, if you have this name and you're just, you're just existing. I'm just giving examples, right? But you understand what I'm painting, the picture I'm painting. Like these, these boomers and Gen Xers, like the 50, 60, 70-year-olds in your family who, like, still think that climate change isn't real. It's like, dude, how do you go outside every day and not, like, again, I mean, this is what I'm talking about, right? There is an ignorance at that level, which is important to remember, because a lot of people, especially in this country, think that because you own more money that you're somehow more correct. It's basically just the wealth equivalent of might makes right. Thus, that's why I think it's a fascist country. It's just more wealth fascist than nationalist fascist. Financial fascism, if you want to call it that. I mean, dude, it's it speaks for itself, man. Like, the amount of homeless people everywhere. Dude, every other American I just have casual conversation with these days has some massive medical emergency that they can't pay right now because we don't have a national healthcare system and nobody's getting paid enough, and we're on the brink of collapse, and everybody just keeps acting like it's not true. I mean, the 4th of July is going to be here in like 3 weeks. It'll be the 250th anniversary of the American Empire, and morale for this shithole country has never been lower. Good, which is good, because we should dissolve America and make it a real central socialist democracy with central democratic planning. Instead of having 435 representatives and 100 senators on Capitol Hill, there should be 200,000 minimum politicians and a massive congregation of a new building that we will make on Capitol Hill. You can't run a country with only 535 people in your representatives of the Federation. That's crazy. That's just political, there's a huge political representative off balance there that needs to be addressed. And we need to start taking up projects that are much closer towards something like China or Cuba, which has this just kind of attitude of just provide as many representatives. The more and more population keeps going up, making more and more representatives, and not translating that to a limit the way we have now, or translating into increases in like the state or the electoral college or blah 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 blah, whatever bullshit. No, like, it needs to be. We need 200,000 people minimum, 250,000 people if possible on Capitol Hill. That is the kind of situation we need to be in. And I don't really see how, to all the people who tell shit to people like me that, oh, Jake, you're so stupid. You don't know anything. Because this is dude, all my critics and haters suck, dude. I've been doing this for so long that I've run out of, people that can actually fucking argue against me. And I'm bored. I get how selfish and ridiculous that sounds, but I am bored. Because everyone just keeps doing the same arguments. And so I'm just rewatching fucking shitty shows at this point. That's basically what it's like, right? Just indulging in rewatches because what else am I supposed to do? And that's what I'm basically at this point where I'm just touching up and refining the things I already know and have memorized. It's just that Americans are kind of finally getting involved because for the first time in modern history, they have not had the privilege of ignoring it as they all continue to love to do. To all the non-Americans, especially non-Western Americans, non-Western non-Americans listening, don't feel sorry. Feel sorry for Black Americans and stuff. They're, Native Americans, disabled people, they're getting fucked over pretty bad. But white working class people, especially richer guys, richer white people, middle class and upper class people in general, don't feel sorry for them. And you should feel sorry for like kids, obviously, right? But like the people, you know, a lot of these people, man, had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to listen, to care, and they did not, dude. They did not listen at any point. And now they're all doing this crocodile tears, boy who cried wolf looking ass bullshit. What? Wham, wham, wham. Oh my God, everything's so shit for me. It's like, yeah, that happens, dog. When you don't give a shit about what happens to Vietnamese people or Korean people or Iranian people or Iraqi people or Afghani people, or Cuban people or Soviet people or Chinese people or Taiwanese people or Chilean people or Peruvian people or South Korean people, all of these people getting fucked over by American empire, dude. When you just ignore it and ignore it and ignore it, the empire sets up a precedent that they can eventually do it to you, because if you're okay with them doing it to everyone else, why wouldn't you be okay with doing it to you? And what do you know? That's exactly what Americans did. They only now, when everything is so bad, that they still don't care that much. Everything seemed like it was going to be revolution at the beginning of this year. Everyone was like, "Fuck guys, all right, get all those ICE guys, fuck them, put the ICE guys in the ICE detention centers, get them good, get those guys up." But nope. No, everyone just went back to watching Netflix, dude, because a night of the Seven Kingdoms was just so fire, or whatever the fuck was going on, that nobody cares anymore. Because America our fascism is based around consumerism, not based around like a nationalist identity. Our nationalist identity is our correlation to our consumption. That is why consumption in this country is a symbol of class. Whether it's owning SUVs, owning homes, your LCD, LED, FHD, HDMI, LMO, KLMO, PQRS TVs, and all of these things. That's how people express their economic status in this country. And in my opinion, things have become so atomized, everything's so hyper-individualized that it's extremely difficult to get Americans to understand that we've got to unite and build a community. I mean, it's, you know, even in my own local area that I live, dude, it's impossible. These, you know, I'm not quite sure what it's going to take for American civilization to really, you know, have a revolution. But so far, it's not there yet, man. And somehow, even now, and I think there's reasons for that, but it's still so astonishing how true it is, how bad things are, and how nobody cares enough. So yeah, right. Like, you know, the workers are going to be paid a certain amount. You know, they're going to be paid what's effectively significantly less than what they're worth because of how much they make in that hour, right? Even though the capitalists own the means of productions and they have this capital owned before it, they didn't, you know, the wealth extracted that they have, that they now use to own other things, is alienated from the same labor that created it, right? Because it's owned in the hands of a capitalist who, you know, even if this person somehow earned it, which they don't, none of these people have these resources before, none of these people have resources from like working. It's all from like coming from a rich family or inheritance or you know, being connected in that certain way simply by association, right, and not by merit. You know, just because they own the machines and the land and the buildings, I mean, do you seriously think like those people help build? No, man, you know, it's all of the same people who keep buying and selling each other's like assets with one another, while the rest of us like work for these people that were effectively slaves for them. I mean, how Like, there's the fact that somebody's going to be listening to this and argue against it. Like, I'm just going to start treating you people like bots. I don't know how this is, like, you know, like, up for negotiation now. Elon Musk is now the world's first trillionaire. Like, the guy should have been Luigi'd a long time ago, man. And here we are, right? How many, like, Americans have died within, like, these last few months because they can't pay their bills, because they're homeless, because they don't have health insurance, because... and there will still be some call... Well, I'm Jerry, and I got my sports glasses and my 40150, and I own my 2 boats at my second house up in this lake up north, and I find that they just need to pull themselves up by the boat straps and do, some fucking cuck. Some just deep, like, some bootlicker deep-throating the shit out of the system, dude. And that person, even if somehow they are actually benefiting from this system, they're still almost, more likely than not, still getting paid less than what they could be, right? The bourgeois is this parasitic class that leeches and absorbs wealth that we create for ourselves, and then they take credit for it. It's no different than, like, the insurance company, this incredibly privatized, unnecessary outlet where a government should be kind of covering these costs in the first place to help nationalize and keep things cheap, because when you allow things to be part of the profit motive, they're subject to higher costs, higher inflation. And once you privatize these things, less people have access to it. The entire point of these things being nationalized is that everyone can have access to it. And if you're the kind of person that's like, you need to pay for healthcare, well, you're going to end up in a gulag. So I suggest you change your opinions, like, ASAP before I write you down on a list and send you myself. Like, all of the people who have these types of views deserve to be, like, all gas, no brakes, full pedal to the metal, experience the exact same tyranny that they subject everyone else to. The same unhealthy standards, the same ridiculous mindset, the literal pull yourself up by your bootstraps that was literally made as a joke that people use unironically. These people, man, like, push back, put them in their fucking place, man. Use their own logic and justification against them, right? Point out how, like, there's always a bigger fish and make them feel, that's how these people think and respond. So assuming I'm not going to have to deal with cucks nonstop, in reply to this, I assume you understand basically what I know. And if you're still somehow, confused about it, right? Like, you spend how much of your life, like, checking your bank account, like, when you go to grocery stores, like, comparing weights and costs of things to save money, right? You're like constantly making estimations in your head about things that you can buy now or you'll have to, like, wait to get later, and all of these, dude, the billionaires, we all saw Succession, the show, man. Like, these people are just out on their yachts, eating shitty food, talking to, like, their inbred family members, all, like, just so impotent, out of touch, just wrong in all of these ways, just this bloated, gluttonous, parasitic class of people that we don't need. The same people that are responsible for the market crashes, the same people that are responsible for the monopolies, the same people that are responsible for insider trading and Citizens United, the same people who are responsible for the massive amounts of wealth inequality or homelessness or the prices of housing or the consolidation of resources, of means of production, of, like how Berkshire Hathaway is like this offshoot of Warren Buffett, I'm pretty sure, and how it just owns like freaking like 75% of like residential buildings now. And now we have the world's first trillionaire on top of like all of these billionaires. While you can't put enough food down for your kids, you don't have enough money, and there will still be some cuckolds. This is what I'm talking about, right? There will always be people who are too far gone. And if we have to kind of guide them with a stern but rough hand in the right direction, so be it. I will be in charge of that program because all the other American communists are too fucking pussy to deal with something like this. So I will deal with it. Because we can't let these insufferable, like this 30% of the American population that just refuse to stop being conservative idiots. it is what it is, and we're going to have to convert all the people that are capable of waking up, and then when they get in the way, well, we'll deal with them properly. With a good old, the same conservatives who who are supporting these ICE detention camps will kick and scream and bitch and whine if you give them 10% of the exact same experience that they demand black and brown people experience, right? I mean, the only way conservatives care is if you make them suffer through the things that they make everybody else suffer through. They don't, conservatism is kind of like the height of disconnection from your own community. To assume that like myself only matters and only my family matters and I don't need to care about, dude, whatever you say. Like, as you use the roads every day, you like breathe the air that like all of the workers maintain. We're the ones tending to the environment. We're the ones making sure that the water isn't polluted. We're the ones making sure that like, a corporation doesn't just come like, and those same conservatives will be like, I don't need to, It's just this childish lack of responsibility and accountability that needs to be pushed aside and addressed and dealt with as just chuds and children that are deeply unserious and don't need to be included, especially if they're going to espouse utterly repulsive policies and this like dogged sycophancy of the billionaires. This drooling, deep-throating bootlicking that all of these people do, man, just humiliate, cast aside. We'll put them in the same camps that they want to set up for everyone else. With like 10% of the intent. Don't worry, we're not fascist, evil Nazis. Don't worry, you conservative trash. You'll only get 10% of the experience that you subject everyone else to, and you will still bitch and whine and complain about it, because that's how these people are. So, assuming we're not dealing with those people right now, or we're moving on to all the people who are either already on board or somewhat on board or open to hearing it, or maybe you're like a liberal and you're unsure, right? Hopefully a lot of like what I've been describing and talking about kind of like adds up and makes sense, right? But I feel like it's pretty straightforward, right? Like, you understand that like you're getting like, your boss isn't going to pay you like money that's like more than what you make, All workers who are paid a fixed salary or wage are all universally making less than the amount of value that they put out. It's how the job works. And when you use that extra surplus value, the rich take it, they absorb it, they claim that they need to cover costs, when in reality they're trying to give you as little as possible and give themselves as much as possible, because it's the profit motive, because money naturally in a capitalist system, you can't just have money, you got to have more money that gets more money, and that money gets more money, and you have to have more money, more. It is an ideology of cancer, of infinite growth. And, how does Elon Musk not epitomize that? This wet, soy, idiotic, pathetic, like, I have to pay Chinese hackers to make my Path of Exile account look dope. Like, none of them, like, my trans daughter doesn't talk to me. All of my, like, sons are, like, frat bro dweebs. Everyone on the planet hates me. I pretend to be people online. I like bought Twitter just to like rename it and ruin it and destroy the website because I wanted to throw a hit. Like, chimpanzees, like if chimpanzees would beat a monkey to death in an environment like that, like chimpanzees would they would grab that person who has all that and they would beat them to death. And Americans are like, but what if we worship them? Right? I mean, on some level, you're cuckolded if you support capitalism. And we need to just start laying that into people. Otherwise, they're not going to, Conservatives don't respond to logic and compassion. They respond to being out-dominated, because that is how they perceive the world. They don't see it through equality, through egalitarianism, through community, through collective, through collaboration. They see it through domination, through hierarchy, through might makes right. And so the only thing that these people listen to is out-dominating them, humiliating them, making them feel small and shitty in the exact same way that they make everyone else feel shitty and small, either directly or indirectly. And this lack of accountability that they have by letting every time that they're at the Thanksgiving dinner every year spout racist joke or nonsense talking point, and no one pushes back, and then they continue voting for you, and now your abortion rights are being taken away, and now ICE is everywhere. So I'm glad that everyone decided not to push back on that. That was so great. That's just so good. We're not at all culpable for what's going on right now in any fashion whatsoever. So, it's pretty obvious at this point. I mean, our wealth disparity is worse than it was than the French Revolution, and the French Revolution literally had an uprising. They did, and we haven't done that yet. We did January 6th, which was like soy, hillbilly, weak, cuckolded, impotent, the revolution we have at home, where Trump was like, man, the election was stolen. It was totally fake. All made up. Unbelievable. I'm the best president of our time. I don't know why I'm doing like a South Park impression. I am the greatest child rapist. It is unbelievable. I'm the greatest president there's ever been. Totally insane. Okay, I mean that's who that chud is, man. That's our president. The wealthiest person in the world is this loser ass white supremacist best friend who did the white power salute twice at Trump's inauguration. No, man, these, all of these people need to be prosecuted. All they need to be litigated. They need to be regulated, and they need to have their assets seized or taxed. Inheritance taxes need to go through the roof. People's estates need to be seized. Eminent domain needs to be, turned all the way hell up. We need monopoly busting, antitrust laws. All of these things, man. And none of this is going to exist because the ruling class owns our society. And so how are any of us going to, the same ruling class that is the wealthiest it's ever been in all of history, that rules and controls our society, tells us that we're not allowed to use violence against them in the exact same way that they use it against us, in the exact same way that, being foreclosed and taken out of your house is violence. Police brutality is violence. Not having a healthcare system and dying from the side effects of not having those resources, that is violence, right? But when Luigi takes out a healthcare CEO who God knows how many thousands of people died from Brian Thompson personally making all of these CEO decisions and just, leaving all of these people to rot and die so that he can make an extra buck. And there are still going to be people who are like, oh my God, I can't believe you advocate for the death of that CEO. It's like, well, you see yourself a little too much in the rich, don't you? And you should probably fix that before shit really hits the fan. Because I think that's the other thing too, is that in this country, people have gotten so comfortable, man. Like this country has been this like indulgent consumerist pseudo paradise shithole for a while now. And Americans are finally starting to realize, like, oh, wait, there's mass shootings everywhere. And people are doing fentanyl all the time. And, like, all types of, like, theft and crime are rising. And, within coinciding conditions of the poverty, blah, blah, blah. Like, the police state's getting ramped up, and so is their surveillance state. These AI... if you support the way our society is, like, you're just an idiot. You're either an idiot or you're evil, and there's no other two solutions about it. You just hope that they're an idiot at this point, because that's all we can tolerate. The Epstein files prove it once and for all, everybody. An entire underground elite pedophile group owns the world and controls us all. It's not a conspiracy. It's not the Jews control us all. I mean, Israel has a lot of influence, but no. Like, this is, we all know for a fact that that's what these people are, and we're still letting them get away with it. They are going to continue to sexually assault children. They're going to continue to blow up Iran, ignore the Sudanese genocide, let all these Americans suffer as well, just so that they can maintain their power. And so unless we all kind of willingly adopt this philosophy of, like, maybe we should give them the same energy that they give us, this is going to continue. Your lives are going to continue to get worse. You understand? And even if things marginally get better, you really think that's going to last? It's not a coincidence that the most anti-socialist, anti-communist country in the history of the world and on the planet right now is incapable of adopting any proper policies or revolutionary routes or organizational kinds of springs, because of this idea that, like, just having it like a soup kitchen is communist to a quarter of Americans, man. Like that, the programming and the conditioning in these people is so strong that you have to develop a kind of bulldozing attitude of just resolute conviction, a type of militant compassion that just does not resolve, but also doesn't, take up with bullshit, but also is kind of constantly pushing the mission about what it means to be egalitarian and fight for the socialist society. So, we've got like the surplus value of billionaires, right? We got this understanding about exploitation and how the work, that's what exploitation is. It's like the extraction of the surplus value from the wealth created by laborers, right? So we got all these things covered. I'll do more clarification in the future if I missed anything. But to kind of finish this up, right, as I mentioned in the beginning, you need to be wary of the people who are making the talking points that I'm saying right now, but don't go all the way. And the number one person I'm thinking in my mind right now is AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the congresswoman, very popular amongst the American. They call themselves leftists. They're really like centrists at best. They're liberals. They're liberals. They're not socialists. And my personal prediction as of this moment is that, assuming we still have primaries and elections in 2 years, which is kind of like up for debate, honestly, shit, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, yes. When the next presidential elections and stuff like that come, my current predictions are that like Kamala Harris and AOC will become the front runners. And I personally believe that AOC will probably win the nomination and become president. Excuse me. Sorry. We'll see what happens. Obviously, things can change, but I think that when she does become president, she's just going to be basically like a slightly more right-wing, at best, FDR, who passes like a Green New Deal or something, but ultimately keeps perpetuating American imperialism. AOC's, she's not going to... She's capitulated too much on Israel. She's capitulated to too many of her peers. She's been like absorbed into the Democratic Party apparatus, just like Zoran has, just like Grant Plattner, just like Bernie Sanders, and all of these people. Like if you're a fan of these people, you have to be new to this. Like there's no way you're not like a younger Zoomer or only just getting into politics. Because like, dude, Bernie Sanders he may have voted against the Iraq war, but I'm pretty sure he voted for the Afghanistan war. He voted for the genocide in Yugoslavia. He supports Israel, like, adamantly. He still won't call it a genocide, If Bernie Sanders won the nomination in 2020 and won president and was elected in 2020, the exact same outcome, nearly identically, would be the case for both the Ukraine war and the genocide in Gaza. Maybe he would rescind some funding, but Bernie's never going to go full free Palestine. He won't. Dude's not even going to do a 2-state solution. He supports a 1-state solution. Jesus Christ. The darling and figurehead of the American revolutionary workers movement is a Zionist. Like this is what I'm talking about. Okay. There is too much compromise. There's too much capitulation on the social democracy left. There's too much historical evidence to prove that these people can't be trusted, that coalition building with them always gets us real communists and socialists, Marxists and revolutionary organizers and all of these things kind of swept up into the Democratic Party apparatus or other entities and pivoted away from actual revolutionary change. And so you have to litigate these claims from everyone, including myself, and don't just let people who, who I was just seeing somebody, like some of these Democratic Party talking heads love to go around and talk about how powerful the rich is getting. But then at the same time, AOC as well. This woman supported Iron Dome funding. Like she helped contribute to the death of Palestinians. And you're going to sit here and like give me shit because I don't want to support this person, yet I still think it's going to be her or Kamala Harris. We'll see, though. Obviously, we've got a ways to go. So a lot can change. But yes, please be careful about the people who say these things. Please pay attention. Don't just do your research, but like do thorough research, right? If you find information that challenges what you believe, maybe look more, right? Unless it's like, unless you're like, I think that everyone is created equal, and then you accidentally find a white power website. Like, that's obviously not what I'm talking about. Or even like, don't use the Heritage Foundation and the Federalist Society as like sources, right? These are conservative nonprofit offshoots to help perpetuate reactionary elements within the political socio-culture of America and other parts of Western civilization. It's all, pretty obvious, right? But like, if you're sitting out here being like, wait a second, like, the Israeli government's if the United States government's willing to lie about Israel, what else are they lying about, dog? Like, do you trust the American government? No? Then why do you trust what they tell you about communism, about the USSR, about China, about North Korea, about Venezuela, Cuba, Iran? Why do you trust, if you don't trust the American government and the American corporations, why do you trust what they tell you about, including North Korea? All of these things, man. Okay? If they're lying to you about Israel, if they're lying to you about capitalism, if they're lying to you about a bunch of stuff, why wouldn't they be lying about all this stuff too? You have to be delusional to not see the consistency there. So do the thorough introspection, like do the thinking, do the self-care and the investment and the energy and the enthusiasm and the research. Don't let up, don't surrender, don't give in. Don't let these sick pedophile billionaire, psychos win. We're gonna, socialism and revolutionary potential has never been more ripe in America. Things have never been more ripe for change. People are the most aware and awake and knowledgeable they've ever been. People are the most willing to collaborate with one another. Sure, there's a bunch of division and stuff like that, but like, Americans, largely speaking, except for all these conservative losers, are pretty united against all of these rich cuckolds owning us and controlling us and selling us dog shit and not giving us health care and putting poison in our food and water. Like, friendly reminder that Flint, Michigan still does not have clean water. Like, we're not a first world country, man. We're a third world country with a Gucci belt. We're no different than like Saudi Arabia or the UAE or whatever, man. We're just this former country that's getting all of its last resources stripped out of it just to like save a couple extra bucks for the pedophiles. And so, to all the liberals and social democrats and democratic socialists, like, you think if you think we can electoralism our way out of this, like, I've got a bridge to sell you, we're gonna have to do like some pretty extreme stuff, man. Some pretty out there stuff, some stuff I'm not even necessarily allowed to say. As kind of this, that's why when all these, remember those Note Kings protests and how nothing came out of it and everyone just went, patted themselves on the back and then just went about their day? Oh, it's almost like all of us tankies were right. Look, you all went and then nothing happened. Wow. What do you know? Are any of these people like joining the, are storming ICE facilities or blowing up Israelis' weapon manufacturers stuff? No. They're all showing up on a Saturday to go walk down the street, and then they're going to get deep dish pizza or some bullshit on their way home and watch Netflix. Dude, it's not... Everything about America has been so absorbed into, to the point where like even critics of America have been absorbed into it to still be ultimately pro-American. Just ask any mainstream dominant American voice leftist quote-unquote commentator on the platform. I don't even need to name drop because it's just all of them. It's all of them. Or if it's not all of them, it's basically all of them. And they're going to keep sheepdogging people back into the Democratic Party instead of supporting revolutionary organizations like the PSL or the FRSO or for Christ's sakes, man, even the RCP. Fucking Trotskyites, like, not even that, man. So I don't know what's it gonna take. I feel like what it's gonna take, like, things have to continue getting worse here, and people are gonna have to continue, like, I don't know what it's gonna take to get them to change and understand. Like, things are getting so bad already, and people are still not, now that it's like summer, like, everyone's like, just because, like, the weather's nice now, they're, like, forgetting about how shitty, and everyone's just, like, going back to consuming, like, everything in their life isn't going to shit right now. But maybe, maybe Americans will just get used to, like, living in this austerity or something, and we'll just have to write out this last chapter of, like, running on fumes and everyone barely getting by. But I don't really see how that, people are already like eating less and like drinking more water, and I mean it's good because they're eating healthier food somewhat in some cases, but nonetheless they're not eating. People are starting to cut back on meals because they can't pay their bills, and once mothers can't start feeding their children, or once it starts where mothers can no longer feed their children, that's the Kenny Loggins danger zone right there. Okay, Kenny Loggins, right? I think that's the guy, right? Yeah, Danger Zone song, right? I'm pretty sure I got that right. And so, it's this weird situation where like Americans are probably only going to change if things get worse, unless we start doing stuff about it, unless we start telling people and speaking up about what's actually true and speaking truth to power about how these systems of oppression actually work and how exploitation functions in America, and how critical the annihilation of American imperialism is to any successful revolution in this country, because otherwise we're just doing American exceptionalism and American supremacy, but with like socialist characteristics or something like that. It's just Strasserism for Americans. We are an empire. We are white supremacist, patriarchal, queerphobic, ableist, and not just, like that doesn't mean like rich white men are the only benefit. Like all Americans, dude, we're all complicit. We're all, homeless people are some of the least politically powerful people in the country. They have no resources. They're abused and neglected and oppressed nonstop. They're terrorized. They're tortured every day. And even despite that, there are aspects where people who are homeless in America have arguably a somewhat better experience to Palestinians getting genocided right now. Because sure, you're covered in your own shit and piss as you OD on fentanyl, but are you getting bombed? No. You see what I'm saying? Like Skid Row and Kensington Street, or whatever that place is called in Pennsylvania. Is it Philadelphia, right? Kensington or something? Those places are some of the worst places to be in America, simply because of people suffering. The people suffering there, and it's still, I don't want to say nowhere near as bad, because I don't want to take away the pain. Addiction's awful. Fentanyl's terrible. These people are homeless. It's all bad. Let's not take away from it, right? But they technically aren't getting genocided, right? It's all there's, all the shit those people are dealing with, Palestinians are dealing with even more, right? I mean, really, right? People fenting out on the sidewalk in Skid Row have a marginally, it's not significantly, it's marginally, right? A marginally better life than people in Palestine, because they can still go to a hospital. And our I don't know how universal the laws are everywhere else, but at least in America, they still have to treat you and stuff, even if you can't pay it, et cetera, et cetera. There's still developed public parks here. There's sidewalks, right? So even though these people are living actual nightmares, that they are living in the utmost suffering and soft white underbelly video type shit, right? Just every goddamn day, nonstop, relentless psychological abuse and barrage, right? And it's still somehow nowhere near as bad as the Palestinians. You see what I'm saying? Even our homeless people have marginal privileges. Marginal. Can't emphasize. I'm not making a point how homeless, the homeless population in America is the reason the Palestinians are dying. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how America is so privileged from the rest of the world that even when you're ODing on the sidewalk in Skid Row, you arguably have a higher quality of life than the Sudanese, than Palestinians, than Ukrainians who are getting taken off the street and getting. Ukraine is a Nazi state, and the conflict between Russia and Ukraine is far more complicated than people think. Just because Russia's invading Ukraine doesn't mean that Ukraine's the good guy. That's not how any of this works. NATO's been a real encroaching threat for a while, and there are many reasons to justify that the Russians annexed not just the Crimea, but also the Donbass, Luhansk, and there's another region too, I forgot the name, in that eastern Ukraine region. And it's not just for the resources too. It's a very Ireland situation where there's a lot of Russian speakers over there, Russian cultural people, and they're getting subjected to like Ukrainian nationalist type of violence and stuff like that, and discrimination, blah 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 blah. So like, you know, like they're, you know, Ukraine is like a developed nation too, like that's, and it's still, you know, like Americans have it bad, or excuse me, slightly better than that. And even though things in America are terrible right now, I mean, they really are, but like it's so bad. It's so bad right now. Like prices are insane. Everybody's miserable. Everyone pretends like they're not miserable. It's like, it's a collective psychosis right now. It's kind of bizarre, actually. I'm like watching the stages of grief through like and Americans are very much still like because they can't deny it. Like the reality is so bad that the first stage of grief denial, right, is all that they have left. Like they can't, because it's bad, right? Like it like you can't argue or debate it anymore. Like people can't pay their fucking bills. So Americans are currently in very much stage 1 of denial, where it's like, come on, it's not that bad. You know, like we didn't just go to war with Iran and kill a bunch of schoolgirls in an elementary school there, or support a genocide for the last few years, or get an orange child rapist as president, or have the Gestapo, such as the police or ICE, taking people off the street and brutalizing them, or American soldiers doing mercenary work abroad and in covert ops areas, while also supporting main Democratic Party candidates who commit that same exact violence, like Rand Plattner, who very much knew that the tattoo he got was not, like, this guy is a Nazi, man. There is no material difference between American veterans and IDF soldiers. It is a 1-to-1. It's a different, like, geopolitical location. And I don't think it's responsible to ignore how much, like, the end of American empire is far more important than improving Americans' lives. Because improving Americans' lives does not necessarily mean the end of empire. And so why does the rest of the world have to suffer so Americans can have marginally better, right? There will never be a revolution in America that is not American supremacist without being anti-imperialist. It is a mandated condition by its very nature, by its very systemic structure. I would argue that this is the most important line for Marxists to be taking right now. I would even argue that it's almost more important than being against capitalism. Imperialism is the chief engine, not just of modern day capitalism and American empire, but also the division between these insufferable Western Marxists, right? That people like Gabriel Rockhill and others are starting to talk about more and more. I think Lacerda also has some work on this as well. These Foucault, Sartre, we support the war in Vietnam, I'm also a pedophile, Frankfurt School, Adorno, Horkheimer, we're in league with the deep state, blah, blah, blah. You can kind of check out all that stuff. Look up Gabriel Rockhill and his book, Who Paid the Pipers of Western Marxism. Great stuff, worth checking out. Or his YouTube channel with his co-sponsor, the co-creator of his organization, which is called Critical Theory Workshop. It's on YouTube, definitely worth checking out. His co-creator, Jennifer Ponce de Leon, some French-sounding name, I don't know, I don't care, France's words. Gaul, am I right, ladies and gentlemen? Gaul. I mean, whatever. Anyways, check that stuff up, look into that stuff, and you'll see all about it. You'll see what the truth is, because even Western Marxists, right, the chief split, the chief kind of issue that was going on historically, 60s, 70s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, etc., is this lack of Western Marxists to support anti-imperialist efforts, right? This idea that only Marxism in the Western world is legitimate and we need to support our government's antics against the rest of the people in the global South or the third world or whatever. And no, we don't. We don't at all, man. It is an unconditional quality for American revolution to be anti-imperialist, and if we do not do that, we will only continue our similar systems of oppression. We have to go full communist. We have to go, not communist day one, but we have to build a socialist country, man. It is the only politics and ideology that we have not chosen yet. We haven't even tried it yet here, not even remotely. Even the FDR stuff was technically social democracy. That was the closest we got, and it was still nowhere near as close too. And even then, the rich were really losing their shit on FDR, who put Japanese people in internment camps. So it's You see, like, I guess that's the thing I should really land on, is that, like, compromising with the oppressors does not give you anything. You're just yielding ground to them for the sake of your desperation of power. But you're not actually, like, gonna achieve it. You're giving up ground to, you hold these people accountable by taking the most left-wing position possible and demanding that they meet you halfway. Not constantly letting right-wingers determine the Overton window and what's acceptable debate. That's the whole reason we're in this mess right now. So fuck these people. Fuck the billionaires. Fuck the pedophiles. Fuck the conservatives. Fuck Israel. Fuck the Nazis. Fuck the American Empire. Free Palestine. And yeah, let me know what you think. I know this is kind of like a, I don't know. It's this is all a work in progress. It's very, very like unfiltered and kind of unpolished, let's say, as I'm just starting all of this out. So I'm still open to hearing people's thoughts and stuff. If you do plan on arguing and stuff, and especially if you're a right winger, like if you come at me with shitty energy, I'm gonna give you the same shitty energy back. If you come open with like open arms, even if you're open arms and like toss in a little teasing, because I can take jokes, like it's not, it's not a big deal. But if you're acting in bad faith, I have no choice but to dismiss you. But if you actually care and want to talk and critique and have questions, I can do my best to respond in the comments and all of that stuff. And yeah, it's all, I think more important now than ever is find people who are woke, especially if you're American, find people who care, and not just woke, like I voted for Kamala Harris. Like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like, find Marxists, find communists, preferably don't go to the RCP, because they're just don't do it. All right. Find community kitchens or organization groups or ICE response teams or, like ICE crisis response or police crisis response teams to keep these people in check and keep an eye on them. There's anti-Zionist groups, there's Palestinian groups to join, there's, read theory, right? Read Marxism, read Lenin's Imperialism, the Highest Stage of Capitalism. You should read Lenin's What Is to Be Done. You should read Lenin's Left Anti-Communism and Infantile Disorder. You should read, there's stuff from Karl Marx, Franz Fanon. I'll even talk about these books a little bit later. Ezra Vogel, William Bloom, Lacerda, who I mentioned already, Gramsci, Paulo Freire. I don't know how to say these names, man. The Labor Aristocracy of the Oppressed, I think it's called Pedagogy of the Oppressed, rather. I think that's what it's called. More Fanon, there's... there's a book called Socialism Betrayed you should check out. And that's just some types of... and Soviet Democracy by, I think, Pat Sloan is the author's name. Yeah, Pat Sloan. Those are just... and you can look... and Michael Parenti's Against Empire, and Michael Parenti's Black Shirts and Reds, if you want somewhere to start off with. That's probably your best. Against Empire is basically like, Against Empire by Michael Parenti is basically the American Communist Manifesto. It's like the way to like just simply like describe like to people how America is bad and like what it's doing, and gets right to the point. It's super simple. It's like academic but digestible, and it makes sense. And he's not like using language to like put himself in a light where he's like smarter than other people. He's using it to be a proper Marxist, to disseminate information to the working class and the masses. And these are the types of stuff that is worth checking out. The types of stuff that the American education system, American government, American corporations are telling you are evil and spooky and wrong. You ever notice that our government doesn't have anywhere near the same hatred for Nazis and fascism in the Holocaust that it does for communism, trying to tell you that communism is the same thing? Well, you've got fascism now. So congratulations, my fellow Americans. And I don't know, you tell me, does this feel communist to you? Unless you're delusional. I mean, you're assuming you're not an idiot, like, you can clearly see that, like, this is fascism. If you think that it's communism, you're an idiot, or you're ignorant, and you, like, maybe you want to learn more, and I can answer some of that stuff. Or you can put stuff in comments, or if you Google stuff and look into stuff, that's okay too. But if you're intentionally being ignorant, if you're like, whatever, it's like, well, good luck with that, buddy. Good luck with the state of things. And I don't want to leave things off like that. I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep speaking up. So should you. Don't give up hope. Take care of yourselves. Believe in yourselves. Believe in peace. Free Palestine, free Sudan, free Congo, free death to the empire, death to capitalism, death to white supremacy. We got to end these systems of oppression. We can build something new, something better. And all we just got to do is try it out, is lean into it. We haven't even given it a shot. And I think it's time to really, consider that. So, I feel like this is a good place to stop for this one. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Hopefully you liked it. Let me know what you think. I still haven't figured out what to call this yet. I'm just going to call it the JAWG podcast for now, because I don't have like a good name for it or anything. And I'm still doing it by myself too, and yada yada. So, just let me know what you think and all of these things. I hope everyone's doing okay. I hope you're doing all right and staying safe and staying strong, and drink water, eat healthy foods if you can, pet a puppy, talk to somebody you care about, go on a walk, enjoy some sunlight, and maybe pop on an audiobook about that from Domenico Lacerda or Michael Parenti or something, Nurture yourself, take care of yourself, do self-care, but also educate yourself. Take this time to really ask yourself the question, maybe, were the communists right? Maybe I should do the introspection myself, right? Because you can see for yourself and do the research and work and actually read the material. Don't go to, Western sources about communism. Why do you go to liberals to learn about conservatives? Do you go to conservatives to learn about liberals? So why does everyone do that for communists and socialists? And I feel like the only reason anybody does that is because they're afraid that we might be right. And so if you follow that, if you're a part of that, maybe do some introspection and think about that if that's the case. Or if not, and you're ready to see and actually do the scrutiny yourself, then look into it. Find actual Marxist, Leninists, real communists, and talk, like me or other people, and talk to them and ask them questions. Because that's what you should really be focusing on above all else. Thanks again for watching. I hope everybody's doing okay. I believe in you. Take care. Let me know what you think. Best wishes to you. Free Palestine. Viva la revolution. And, glory and power to all oppressed peoples and all working class people all around the world. Take care, everybody.